Hello, everyone who has recently joined. I've seen a lot of people have just joined. So good evening, everyone. So we're just waiting for a couple of others as well to join, and then we'll start the webinar around 4:01. Okay, I've seen people have joined. So I think we'll get started with the webinar. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Sumeru's most awaited webinar, which is Monitoring Attack Surfaces, a 360-degree game plan. So first of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you all for taking your time out from your busy schedule on a work day, and then being a part of this webinar in order to understand why attack surface monitoring is critical in our current world. We all know that the attack surface is a key component of managing an organization's risk by continuously discovering, classifying, and assessing the security posture of your company's ecosystem in order to stay ahead of the hackers. So today's webinar is about the same. An organization's external attack surface is larger than most organizations believe in, and is just getting bigger and bigger as each day passes by. So if you don't proactively monitor your external attack surface, it would be too late for you to protect your foot. So by saying that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our three key people in this webinar who will enlighten and educate all of us on why the attack surface is important and how threat meter of Sumeru can help your business in achieving it. So let me introduce to them. So the first speaker I would like to introduce is Mr. Manikant. And before introducing him to all of y'all, I would just like to take the time and honor of thanking him for being a part of this webinar and adding immense value on this topic. So thank you so much, Mr. Manikant, for being our guest of honor for today's webinar. Now, by saying that, I would like to introduce Mr. Manikant. He is a Vice President and CISO of DMI Finance. He has been a winner of the Next 100 CIO, Innovative CIO, and InfoSec Master, and also a strategic leadership advisor, and as well as a customer-centric ID leader who's positively impacted the organizational growth and profitability. So thank you so much, Mr. Manikant, for being a part of it. And then I would like to introduce to Mr. Chida, who is a Chief Program Officer of Sumeru. He has been an inspiration and a passionate entrepreneur leader and unshakable optimist dedicated in order to help companies achieve remarkable results with great technology and cybersecurity solutions. So that is about Mr. Chida. And then finally, I would like to introduce to our third speaker, Mr. Shiva. He's the man behind the threat meter. He is a principal consultant security of and also a co-creator of the ultimate tool that we were going to witness today. So, and this is the introduction of our three speakers who would be a part of it and enlighten us on this particular topic. I would like to welcome Mr. Manikant, who will be talking about the challenges that are faced by the CISOs of the organizations with regards to the increased attack surfaces. Welcome, Mr. Manikant.
Thank you, Snigdha. Thank you, Sumeru Solutions, for this opportunity. All those use cases or whatever I'm going to share now is all my personal experiences, as does not directly or indirectly signify my organization or my previous organizations. When you start, let's say, with a poll of hands, let's say if I ask anybody today, have you ever heard a day where you have not heard about any breach in the world? It would be none. Every day has become a breach day. Every day has become a zero exploit day. So in the near future, there is going to be a real wonder day where we are going to celebrate that there is a zero non-breach day or a non-breach day very soon. When we really look at a breach, the only thing which we always notice is there is an exposure, or there is a clear exposure of information on the web. Now, how do we, when we say exposure, how does it happen? It's very simple. We can categorize, there is an exposure of information in the cloud with only basically 3 categories. How do we categorize them? It's very simple. Usually, as a CISO, we know that there is a public information available, or a public infrastructure is available, and it is exposed to public. The category number 1. And category number 2 is that we may know, or a CISO may know, that there is an infrastructure is available on the cloud, and we may not know whether it is exposed. We may or we may not know. And the third category is the most complex category, which tells that we even don't know that there is an infrastructure available on the cloud, and we even don't know that it is exposed for public. The third one is more complex, and every organization has these 3 complex or so simple category of information or organization data which is exposed, but still many fail or proactively fail to monitor them. And this exposure is getting bigger day by day. So when we say that when the exposure is bigger, the threat and the risk is also bigger. So why it is bigger? Because when the data gets exposed slowly, it becomes larger and it becomes more complex. And it is just not only larger and complex, it becomes diverse also. So when we always talk about organization security, we always take mostly from internal perspective. So for an infrastructure person or a CISO person, we always try to protect the local infrastructure if you are highly in local infrastructure. Whereas if you are in cloud, then again we look at the assets which are locally lying on your cloud, and the IPs or the infrastructure which is exposed to the public. So we don't look at from a public view, or we always look at inside out view and not the outside in view. Let's look at when data is exposed from the public, when the data is exposed from the public, and the third parties are accessing your APIs, your vendors are vendors are getting data, your partners are exposed, and you're getting data, sending them API calls for your business purposes. Now, really, does it look like a threat? No, this is your business requirement. But whereas, just imagine one third party or one vendor or one partner's credentials gets leaked in a public web or in a deep web, the entire organization is now at high risk now. So then why do we worry? See, we all have organizations have put in many time, money, and energy on protecting your network by putting firewall, putting basic security measures. Then why do we protect them? How does the organization data gets leaked out? The only thing is when a hacker or a threat resource or a guy who wants to get inside back the system takes data, he starts taking data and starts exposing it in the dark web. And we may think that we are very protected, we cannot be exposed, we don't have data which can be exposed to dark web. But mind you, I'm saying, while we are discussing over this webinar, at least many of our credentials may be exposed on the dark web and which we are not even aware of. So in a dark web, what data gets leaked and how does it really impact an organization? The most common target is the brand impersonation which happens. For example, if a company is called as abc.com, the threat actors create cloned websites similar to abc.com and ensure that the business is rerouted to them. It does not only impact the organization business, but also create future risks for the organization's business also. What we have found, or what I have found, is there are only two basic the basic or high level threat which has impacted the organization is, one is brand impersonation or the phishing domain. So which is very difficult to understand, comprehend, and detect also, and to protect them. So there are organizations who are spending enough time and money, and also they do protect these type of threats, but it takes a lot of time and energy and money, and it's a very painful activity. Just to bring down a phishing domain, it may take between 24 to even months. So unless and until we are proactive on detecting and understanding the complexity of these attacks, it's very difficult to protect your organization. How does the compromised information gets onto the internet? So there are many cloned mobile apps, non-genuine web resources where people download their apps. For example, people download games or some shopping apps where these apps are mostly injected with malware, and these malware gets into your mobile, then it starts getting into your mobile email, then it starts creating many other uncomparable or uncomprehendable issues to the organization. First, it compromises your organization data, your personal data, then it starts infecting your organization data also. So what is the solution? So you cannot keep controlling a remote device with putting more apps and more controls. And with the increase in the shadow IT, it's going to be more complex. Now, what is shadow IT? It is nothing but organization, a guy in a developer who is going to deploy something on the production, and before putting it into production, he wants to test it. So he creates a small web server and he deploys it and tests it. But the only thing is he forgets to shut it down. Now he has put all the credentials, he has put in all the code, everything on the server, and he has forgotten to shut it down. So this is an unknown asset which is for the organization, and it is the one of the complicated unknown risk for the organization also. So with the growing digital businesses, with the growing digital transformation across the globe, the more and more we are putting things on digital world. Say, for example, people move from infra to cloud servers. People move from having packages to containers, domains, subdomains. Everything is getting more on or digital oriented, and public are more focused on the transaction, and they don't keep a track about what is really happening behind the transaction. For example, let's say it's a bank, let's say or a centralized bank, and the people don't read the spelling of the bank very frequently. Once they see the logo, and even if it is cloned, they don't understand, and probably they click on a link and they open the website. and within few minutes their account itself gets hacked. So how do we detect it? How people detect it? The best mechanism to detect anything is understanding the phishing threats. And usually phishing threats, if you really see, it is mostly not in the early stage. When a phishing happens, it is only post delivery only we understand that the phishing has happened. So usually all these mail security and all those advanced threat protections, they don't detect at the stage of delivery. Rather, they only start impacting after the impact or after the phishing mail has been delivered. So with these points, what I want to club or probably I want to consolidate here is you cannot depend on an annual VAPT or or a probably regular constant VAPT to understand the threats, which is multifold, multi-diverse across the organization. So it is better, or it is a wise prudence decision to start monitoring proactively and understand what are the threats which is lying ahead for you with the help of open source tools, or probably taking some tools which can ensure that your data, if it is exposed on the dark web, can be the risk of exposure can be reduced. Now, I wouldn't say that you will not be exposed. There is no 100% guarantee that you will not be exposed. None of the organization will give you a guarantee. The only thing is the risk of exposure, the time or the mean time to respond to a problem can be reduced if in case you have a solution which will keep monitoring your threats on the dark web. And dark web, it's not an easy, it is not a child's play for everyone to get into dark web and understand. You need automation, you need manual effort, you need AI, which can understand the threats and which can read and learn about your organization and your risks. So with these points, I would like to say, if you are aware of your risks, please go ahead and start monitoring your personal as well as official data in dark web. That is the only future of protecting your organization. Thank you. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Siddha, for this opportunity. Thank you, Snipta. I hope I will be able to cover my points in the stupid time. Please, if there is any questions, I will take it at the end of the. Thank you.
Hi guys. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Manikant. I think Snigdha has some challenges with the audio. So thank you so much, Manikant, sir, for the wonderful insight. Very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And good evening, everyone. I'm seeing a lot of my friends, a lot of CISOs, a lot of ones I have spoken to them personally. Thank you all, everybody, for your time. For some of you, you have already seen the demo. It'll be a slight repetition, but I hope we cover you with more insights. And what Manikant has covered could have given you a lot more insights into the challenges that you're looking at to protect your fort. With that, I wanted to proceed and introduce threat meter to you, and how we conceptualize this whole threat meter in our backyards, and how it is available for the world today. That is helping most of the companies. So thank you so much for hearing us out. At the end, we will be happy to take any queries. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A forum and keep posting your questions. At appropriate time, I will definitely take them in between too. So please feel free to shoot your questions. So with that, with the background that Manikant has given, where we have spoken about the challenges the CISOs face and things that we should do to protect our fort, like he has summarized beautifully at the end, there is no way other than having an outside in perspective, having eyes in your internet to look at what is exactly happening to your assets, continuously monitoring them. When I say continuously, I say that we are managing it with the tool with very minimal human intervention, and at all point of times it can throw out significant alerts on what is happening to your data, which is available for public to see. Hackers' easiest target is the information that is available in the attack surface that belong to you, which you may or may not know that existed. So most of the times when we sat through, the only objective that we thought was, how will we give information that is lying outside of your ecosystem, which can potentially harm your ecosystem and compromise your business. With that thought, we went back and forth, spent a lot of time researching, understanding the technology solutions that are in the market, the number of places that we need to monitor and crawl and look for your data, finally giving you the eyes for your solutions in the internet, which is hackers that they see about you. So as we move forward, I present external attack surface monitoring tool, which we call Threat Meter. So when we sat and thought through, we said it is not just enough if we give them a tool for external attack surface monitoring. So obviously it comes with a lot of other challenges, which includes protecting the brand, protecting your reputation, understanding what data is available related to your ecosystem in dark and deep webs, and what kind of cloned domains which are related to you, or cloned websites that are available, which is available in the internet, which can lure your potential customers, prospects, vendors from your potential business. And finally, tons of cloned apps which are available from unauthorized stores, which can potentially harm you in case if they come inbuilt with a malware or so, which can potentially compromise your device, your asset, at the end of the day, finally the company asset. So when I take this solution to the market, most of the times I have been faced repeatedly with the question, Chida, can you help me differentiate the attack surface monitoring versus penetration testing? Because this question has been asked repetitively, I thought I'll make a couple of minutes to inform how they differentiate. As we all know, penetration testing is the most active assessment that we take care of. One, threat meter is, of course, a passive thing. It collects the information that is available about your domain, about your company, about your organization, about your people in the internet, and brings it to you for your monitoring. But at the same time, penetration testing, where we grow to a much granular level, find out what is that is impacting, which can potentially harm. So penetration testing is one way, but if it is not done in combination with external attack surface monitoring, it can give you a false information on your application security position. So going as deep as possible, actively exploiting is penetration testing. At the same time, it is performed once in a while, but in attack surface monitoring, we look at all of your external assets, monitor them from the outside in perspective, absolutely being passive and non-intrusive. So there are multiple pros and cons that we have for each of the attack surface monitoring and penetration testing. See, the penetration testing, of course, gives real risks and gives you an in-depth understanding of the risk. But in attack surface monitoring, you get to see the potential risk or the threat that we call it. But in case if we club the result of attack surface monitoring for your prerequisite of penetration testing, the impact that it will make will be huge. Otherwise, like I've said, we will get a false sense of security only with penetration testing. So the best way to do attack surface monitoring, again, is not manual, because it requires a huge learning curve and a lot of technical expert. This input we took, which requires attack surface monitoring, has to be done because the assets are growing. It needs to be continuous. It needs to have low or almost zero human intervention, and it should give you active alerts so that you can take action without significant technical expertise. These 5 points framed our base to conceptualize this product, and that is where we were with the market today on how attack surface monitoring can aid in protecting your phone. Moving on, I just wanted to ask you a quick poll. The poll is in your screens. If you can quickly answer the poll, it will be very helpful for me. So the simple question is, how many of you feel your organization's attack surface has increased in the last few years? I'm seeing answers. I'll take a couple of seconds here for all of you to vote. I hope you see the votes coming up in your screens. Okay, so I see a lot of you are saying external attack surface has increased in few years. Yes, quite significantly they have increased. So if you look at 84% of the business people have said the cyber risk is much significant today compared to what it was before 2 years ago, simply because of these two reasons: significant increase in your attack surface and the complexity and the fast evolving nature of your attack surface. Two, most of the organizations, to be precise, 71% of the organizations, they say that they don't have sufficient understanding or perfect understanding of their entire external attack surface. So this created the base for our product, which is ThreatMeet. Now, as we look at why this attack surface management matters, see, there are multiple challenges: outdated softwares, security flaws, TLS certificates which are expired, third-party scripts, your shadow IT. But all it takes for a hacker is the least available, easily accessible exploit that he can take. We call it as a path of least resistance, right? So once we have that small loophole that is identified, he exploits and compromises the entire business. It can be a simple outdated software to a small third-party script or a security header that been missed, but in combination of all, anything and everything can compromise your business. So people take the responsibility to go through this and take that one insight which can potentially harm your organization. So now, as we move forward, I wanted to take a little time to ask you one more poll where we will get your feel on what is your view on how your organization's asset inventory is discovered and maintained. A couple of minutes here for people to getting voted. I see a lot of you are voting. Nice. So very nice. Very nice. So as we look at, there are people who take time to manually identify them. There are tools that identify them. The point that needs to be understood is it is evolving and it is a continuous process. Relying on manual and spreadsheets is just simply not going to help. So we need to make sure that they are discovered or auto-discovered for that matter, and it covers across all possible domains, subdomains, your cloud servers, assets, your employee credentials, your mobile apps, your media profiles, anything and everything which can have your digital footprint. And once these assets are identified, we have to have now this monitoring in place, which will cover the entire risk aspects in more than 100 plus test cases. So this risk coverage evolves as we speak today. We started with few, added about 50. Now we have about 100 plus test cases across multiple risks, starting from your simple DNS misconfiguration to your IP reputation, to your website, to your outdated version of softwares, to your SSL misconfigurations. So we play that out in a way that most of your risks are covered with the significant asset coverage that we are confident to say that we have eye of all your attack surface monitoring, and we continuously monitor them and cover the significant risk that needs to be potentially covered for protecting your fort. So this opens up the important challenge. How do we approach this attack surface monitoring? The process that we have evolved is discover them first. Today, we started with, like we have seen in the introductory video, we had about few handful of devices, but for a small business today, we are looking at about 100, 200 devices. Most of them know. Whenever I ask the IT team or the security team or the developer team, the common challenge that they throw up is the problem of shadow IT always exists. But the point of, we started small, we had it for a while, but it was not categorized. It was not, the appropriate priority was not assigned to it. But what potentially it throws out is, we fail to discover the assets that are there for our own organization. knowingly, unknowingly. There are set of assets that we know they exist, but they are not exploited. There are assets that we don't know that exist, but they are exploited, and we are not sure of whether they are exploited or not. Now, continuously discovering the assets and putting a clear thought process of what technology tools that we will use to continuously keep this asset updated, and assigning and automatically testing them, discovering them, and identifying which ones that we have to prioritize or which ones gets into a critical thing, and looking at dark and deep webs for the data related to this assets that is being available, which can potentially be exploited, and finally taking action to remediate and fix. The simple step that we have followed in our tool is to discover the assets, test them properly, prioritize them based on the risk that is getting associated, scan through the entire dark and deep webs that are available, and finally take action. Otherwise, the list of vulnerabilities without a clear action to remediate and take down will get into another pile of lists that we will be having. So the focus that we have built in is how do we take action where we go from the step of discovering to final fixing. Now, always the question comes in, when you put the priority, we get into some critical assets, which we call it as crown jewels. The challenge of these crown jewels is there are multiple business teams that is involved. Now you have to align your discussions with your business team, your operations team, your productions team, and your IT team, finally to the security team. Now continuously revisiting what is your crown jewel, what is that you need to protect, having them associating appropriate priority with confirmation from all business holders, associating the appropriate risk that is needed, and taking effective action to monitor them more frequently than what is needed, doing all basic security protocols that is needed to ensure that your basic IT assets are protected, and finally remediating them, and even after remediation, continuously monitoring them so that all crown jewels that are available for easy access to potential hackers is being prevented. So as a part of the tool, we always associate and see how are we adding value to the critical assets in nutshell with the combination of all business stakeholders. Moving on, we have the quick and final poll that is coming up. I just want everybody to take time to answer this poll as well, where does your organization have any means to identify leaks or get intelligence from the dark web? How many of you feel that you have a technology solution in place which will help you protect? Either you may be monitoring it or manually doing it, or you have an automated tool, or you are planning to implement. I would be happy to see how it is coming up for you. I request everybody to participate, please. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. See, to believe 50% of you have said we are not monitoring currently. And that is the most significant thing for hackers to play around. So with this, let me get more insights into how we can plan this. See, this we all know, right? The 7 stages, starting from your recon to weaponization to delivery, then people exploit, then finally go behind. Now the industry has evolved where people team up quite significantly. In one of the cases that I wanted to talk about today in this place is where in one of the major IT company where we have been using our tool to monitor them for last 7 months or so, when we really discovered with the combination, of course, of forensic activity was people, they have teamed up in such a way that they had experts in recon, some experts in exploitation, some experts on command and control. Now they all have teamed up together in a way that they go behind a bigger target. Of course, there are at each places, people take their value, take the exit, and at the weaponization level, people take the findings from recon, and at the exploit level, people take up the all information that is available on all the previous levels. Now at all of these chains, kill stages, there is people who go behind it or team up together in a way that they go behind the attack in a way to compromise. So either they fix a goal and get experts for a group work to get all of them, or individually exit with a small value for a final expert person in each of the field to make it to the next step. Now, we have seen information being available at recon level, at exploitation level, or people who have teamed up and finally given the value. So one of the major IT company where we saw a significant team who's working behind just to go behind this one data of compromising it in total. So this is a most significant thing, and we cannot just stop with understanding the critical assets. Now we have to actively scan for them, not just all your critical assets, but also of all your applications, your servers, your cloud assets, and then having a clear actionable mitigation plan. Now today, most of us get into this approach of doing security scans, but we have the list of vulnerabilities. Then do we take action to remediate them? No. But if we don't have an actionable mitigation plan, and if as an organization who's providing a tool like this for you, if I don't enable an ecosystem where I give you a vulnerability kind of a dashboard where you can see and take time to time action, I will fail in the overall objective. So it is significant to discover the assets. It is significant to monitor them. It is also significant to understand the findings based on the risk category that we have associated and immediately remediating and taking down. So this entire action plan is what we are focused to cover with the combination of active scan, which is also from the base results that we have received through the asset discovery that we have done with the external attack surface monitoring tool. So I just wanted to take a few minutes here where we run a couple of case studies that we have done before I hand over to Shiva for a full-fledged demo. Let's look at one case study where we had a microfinance company who was trying to combat fake loan websites. So we have seen a brilliantly designed, exactly similar with more intuitive and user-friendly website of this microfinance website, literally with a very small difference in their domain name, luring customers who are potentially taking their customers for simple processing fee that is involved. So whenever people apply for a loan, this company gets their data and then they say, this is the processing fee you pay so that we can proceed forward. So these guys operate in the front end, very similar to that company, completely cloned with very more authentic information with continuously changing headers and all that stuff. And they lure, take the processing fee, and then they vanish. So we have been very happy to say that we have worked significantly and saved quite a good amount of microfinance companies to fall victims for this. So as we move, I also wanted to talk about a little bit of what we are doing for a EV vendor. See, again, we all know that this is the most hot topic in the industry. And we work significantly with some of the most leading vendors who are delivering excellence in this space. Now, given the space is hot, exploiting them is the most easiest target for them because there is money which is clearly involved. Now, again, all of this involves a significant brand that needs to be protected, reputation that needs to be protected, exploitable data that are available, easy and free for hackers that needs to be protected. A combination of all is what we have seen. And we have seen people who skipped inventories that were not there. Could be a problem of shadow IT. One instance that I wanted to share in this scenario was where we had a situation where the dev team has configured everything. The IT team was no clue about what dev team has done. Then asset was significantly not monitored. In an extreme cases for an IT company where we have worked, the dev team was aware. IT team helped the dev team to set up, but security team was monitoring it at all. So at the end of the day, the assets that have been there and the weakest, least exploited link, which is the least path of resistance that's been taken by the hackers, and the entire assets were compromised. So when we stepped in, it was already too late, but we tried to prevent everything going forward, including the asset inventory, which was the biggest problem and the starting point of the problem. Then putting appropriate risk priority to each of those assets and continuously monitoring them and pushing them to remediate and take action so that this whole piece is being taken care of. Now, coming back to our tool, we thought these all aspects we should take care before we implement this program. So now attack surface management has become a complete program. It's no more a small tool. It is a set of process. So people, the mistake they do is they monitor once in a while, once in a week, once in a quarter. But monitoring it continuously has an immense benefit because hackers don't sleep. So they don't wait for a quarter period. And for any information that is identified, it takes significant amount of time. And you cannot continuously have a human intervention or a manual lookout for this. So, and it also requires a significant expertise in this. Now, just attack surface monitoring without leveraging it either for a vulnerability scanning or taking the information for penetration testing or red teaming is not just going to give you a full protection. So, and skipping inventories, of course, is not a is the biggest problem. And we have to associate significant priorities. So in nutshell, discover your assets, associate appropriate priorities and the risk factors, continuously monitor them, compare them and club them with your active scans like penetration testing or red teaming, and take immediate action against each of them based on the priority that you have assigned. And after that, you continuously monitor them so that you keep an eye on what is happening. The stats are very stunning. People, approximately IBM study says 288 days for them to find out if there is a vulnerable, if there is a threat or not. And having found out, spend in terms of upwards of $8 million to protect their reputation or through remediation aspects. So we have inculcated all of this into our tool. And whenever we said, if you have to choose a tool, you have to make sure that we have very less false positives and significant actionable insights that is being given it to you. And it needs to be complete in the ecosystem possible, both in terms of assets and in terms of risk coverage. So we have to have a significant asset coverage, in fact, all, and a significant risk coverage. We use 100+ test cases. We have to have the results which are less false positives, and all the results has to be given based on the risk and priority that is associated to the asset. In a way, it is actionable, and we need to remediate. And having remediated, we need to continuously monitor them for future protection. If all of this is inculcated with a very less human intervention, and an alert-based solution will give you a complete 360-degree perspective of the tool. And whenever we go back to the boardroom, these are the few aspects that we repeatedly look for in the product as we fine-tune threat meter and take more and more customers into our ecosystem across electrical side, or on the microfinance, or on the BFSI, or on the insurance side, or on the IT companies, or on the recruitment companies. So across all channels, this has been very helpful. I just wanted to cover up specifically on how threat meter works before Siva takes over for the demo. What we did on the threat meter was, we just wanted very minimal information from you. All we are doing is giving you information that is available in the internet. Like we have seen, we are just eyes on the internet. Threat meter literal definition is, we are eyes in the internet of you in the way hackers see you. So we set up the company with engine and algo kicks in. So here we just go for the completely automated digital asset discovery process, where we discover them end to end. And having discovered all the assets, we run our risk coverage test cases, where we identify the potential risks that are available simply based on the priority and based on the criticality of the business. Now, having identified, we run through multiple keywords with our algo. We also search for your complete dark and deep webs that are available, and we take a clear classification based on risk and priority. Clubbing all of this, we go through the process to validate our asset discovery process being complete, then get into testing them based on the test cases. So this is a chain where we keep working towards ensuring 100% asset coverage, 100% risk coverage, 100% priority or criticality association coverage. Having all of them, we get into scoring the threat. Here we do something differently, which we call it as a financial score that I cover up in the right next slide. And then we provide the report. And once the report is identified, we go back to where we started, where we start measuring and monitoring and then running through the assets. So the process of asset discovery starts with to risk association, to risk coverage, to monitoring. That's when we come back. Now, whenever I give a threat score, especially in the board meetings, where CISOs, anyway, most of us like CISOs, we struggle for justifying investment value for our cybersecurity related investments. So whenever we present a solution that we wanted to inculcate, the first question that asked is, what is the value? How will you find return on investment? What is your ROI? At what period of time you will recover? How will you justify this is the most useful and needed solution for today? So we had answers, but they are mostly subjective. We thought, what if we could give a qualitative, not just qualitative answer, a quantitative answer? That's when we associated the entire threat that we identify. See, like we have said, the threats are true passive. They are information that is available in the public. Now with this threat, if I can associate a potential dollar value or a rupee value, and if you can say that this is the compromise that I will hit if I don't do this solution. Now eyes gets widened up in the board and people say, let's proceed. Now simple thumb rule is, if your mitigation cost is 1/3 of the data breach cost, go ahead and do it. It is simple. So what are your most critical assets and you have a very less money to spend to protect them, go ahead and do it. So we inculcated this in our entire thought process, and this is the significant value. People always tell me that, Chida, this is the good thing, because I can tell not just my list of vulnerabilities, I speak what it will cost me in case if I have to fix it. So what we did was we included all the risks, potential risks, and associated them to what fines in case if it gets exploited that I have to pay. How will I do the incident response process? What will be my reputation damage? What kind of protectivity loss that I have to go through? Now, given all of this, there is a cost associated to each and every of this parameter. Taking that into one side of the account, now understanding what is the risk, what is the global data that is available, and then use our proprietary algo, which can club all of this, your potential threat, your risk, and your fines, or your incident response, or your reputation, or branding protection, or your productivity loss that will happen, or what is that business compromise that you will make. And then we arrived at a potential dollar score. Shiva will cover it up extensively of what that score looks like in the thing. Now, with that score, you can potentially say, this is what I'm bringing value to the board. And the board looks it up and says, now you're talking financial numbers in a way that board understands. So this will help you clearly justify your cybersecurity initiatives. And because there is a dollar value associated, see, there is a beautiful metrics. You know the criticality and the risk factor. You know the potential dollar value. You know what is the cost that is required to remediate them. You know what is the cost that you have to incur in case if that breach happens. Now, knowing the cost of breach, knowing the cost of remediation, knowing the criticality of that protection that needs to be done, and based on the priority, with the money that you need to spend, you can critically protect the assets. This, I hand over it to Shiva, and Shiva will quickly cover it up, the features of the threat meter. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been very thankful to all of you to listen to this. Any questions? I'm seeing some questions being posted already. Please continue to post them. We will take all of those questions right after the demo and help you answer them. Thank you so much.
So yeah, hi everyone. So already Chida has explained some of the features of threat meter. We'll go little deep into threat meter features, and we'll see the demo, quick demo. So as Chida explained, like we have a brand and reputation monitoring, phishing threat detection, data leak monitoring, rogue mobile app detection, etc. For all these, we have a inbuilt superior scanning technology with bots running 24/7 across global level, crawling the complete internet for identifying the data leaks and then other external threats. So specifically in the brand and reputation monitoring, we identify threats like impersonated social media pages in Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media. Also, we detect the cloned version of websites or mobile apps that misuses the brand name or brand content. So, and next about the phishing threat, there are several solutions available in the market which are giving protections for the phishing threats, but those work in the perimeter level. Some examples are like secure email gateway or endpoint protection. So it will not stop the phishing email that are targeted towards the general public in the name of the organization. So what we're trying to do here is, as part of threat meter, like we try to identify the phishing attack in the initial stage, like when someone buying a lookalike domain name or typo squatting domain name, or somebody is cloning your website content like login page, or cloning your logo and creating some free phishing page in a free hosting websites. we'll be able to identify all that and stop in the initial stages itself. And then when it comes to data leak monitoring, like ThreatMeter covers several sources in the internet, like social medias, code repositories, developer forum, file sharing websites, video sharing platform, etc. And in the dark web, we cover hacker discussion forums, data breach databases, and then zero-day websites, etc. For all this data leak monitoring, ThreatMeter generates keywords based on various parameters from the assets discovered. And we'll be able to add our customized keywords as well. So using all these parameters, ThreatMeter identifies data leaks related to the customer data or credit card informations or any intellectual properties, employee related data or source code leaks, etc. So basically, anything sensitive for the organizations will get discovered by the ThreatMeter's data leak monitoring module. And now, next, Rogue mobile app module. So, Rogue and cloud apps are the current trend used in the latest scams, which are targeting the general public. So, as of today, there are 100 plus untrusted stores available in the internet. Many of these app stores are hosting cloned and malicious version of the genuine mobile apps. So, if these fake apps are installed on the mobile device, the whole device might get compromised, and the attacker will be able to access all the media files present in the mobile device and even get complete control of the mobile device, like accessing the microphone or even accessing the camera can be possible using that. So as part of the threat meter, we ensure only the official apps are available in the internet as part of the trusted app store. Rest everything, all the untrusted and rogue mobile apps are cloned versions, everything is completely taken down by our Sumeru team. And next, let us see some of the key advantages of ThreatMeter. So ThreatMeter is a complete SaaS product, no installation required at your end, I mean the customer end, and will not be asking for any access to the infrastructure or access of your application credentials. So all the scans done are completely passive and non-intrusive, except the active scan. And what we are trying to generate out of the dashboard is a hacker view from outside. And about the takedown and countermeasure, we not just identify the external threats, we take care of the takedown of them as well. Like so, as part of the takedown service, we take responsibility of taking down all the identified phishing pages, impersonated websites, fake social media pages, and other external threats. So all the modules, all the monitoring and the external attack surface detection, asset discovery, everything is powered by AI and ML. And along with that, we add the human intelligence as well to the results of various aspects. So in the database, you will never see any false positive, and all the insights generated are accurate and actionable by using the human intelligence. And ThreatMeter has a vulnerability management dashboard, which we call it as a CISO dashboard. So the reason is the CISO will be getting all the required insight for planning the remediation activity. So they will get to know about various factors like list of highly vulnerable assets, critical findings where they need to focus more, or most common and most repeated vulnerabilities. So similarly, like they'll be getting other valuable insight, which using which they'll be able to measure the effectiveness of the vulnerability management program. And we have a SIM integration as well. Like if you already have existing SIM in place, you'll be able to export these threat meter findings into your existing SIM, and you'll be able to correlate with your internal findings for the better correlation.
Just like to quickly, thank Mr. Manikant for letting us know the challenges that has been faced on the external surface, and then Mr. Chita, who helps us, understand the importance of attack surface management, and also letting us know how threat meter is coming into our rescue. And finally, I would like to thank Mr. Siva for explaining us in detail the features of threat meter. I would request all of you all to put in your questions in the Q&A section so that our panelists would able to take it up and answer the questions. So I see a few questions already in there. So whoever has more questions, I would request you all to please type it in the Q&A section. So I would take the first question. I think probably Shiva, you would be able to answer it. It says, if any data leaks are identified by the tool How do you make sure that it is a valid finding?
Yeah, thanks, Nida. So I think Raghav has asked the question. So as I said earlier, like we have a AML engine which will identify all the data leaks. But before presenting it in the dashboard, we make sure the findings are validated by a human expert. So that we take care like no false positives are presented in the dashboard. And he also asked another question about like once the entry point is identified by the tool, will you be testing whether it is exploitable or not? Yeah, so it's so the exploitable part or the verification of the identified findings are not covered as part of the default package, but we'll be doing it as an additional activity. So if you want us to test whether the identified findings are exploitable or not, that we can take separately, and but definitely we'll be able to do that.
Okay, great. So we have another question. It says, does the financial score reduce on the subsequent scans based on the remediation?
See, yes. So there are two questions to that. I'll take all the two questions together. One is, can you come again on financial score? See, the financial score is simple. So whenever you have a threat that is identified, there are multiple things in case if that breach happens. Now, once the breach happens, you have to pay a fine, or you have to take action as an incident response, or you have to protect your reputation and branding, and you have to take actions to fix them. Now put one side on all of this. Now second side on all the risks that are associated. What happens? Now balancing this, we used an algorithm to understand what it will potentially translate into a financial value. So then we associated critical priorities for each of them based on the exploit, based on the potential risk, and based on what will be your mitigation or the value of the breach. So once we get that, we get the financial score. Now the question is, will it reduce on subsequent scans? Yes, as and when your threat reduces, the financial score also will subsequently reduce. As and when your threat score improves, your financial score will come down. Your financial impact will come down. So it is, if your threat score is 100 today, and if you bring it to 20, your financial risk associated to 120 may be $100,000. With 20, it may be only $25,000. So it will come as and when your threat score improves, your financial score is also going to improve. So Manikant sir, there is one question for you. You can take that, and then with this, maybe we can take more questions later because we are already running late by about 10 minutes. Question is, how do you see, Manikant sir, if you're there, how do you see industry, how do you see industry adopting external attack surface monitoring tools in India, especially on the financial sector?
So this is a general question. I cannot comment on other organizations whether adoption, but overall, with my experiences and discussions with other peer CISOs, there has been a huge demand for this type of tools and technologies in across the financial, not only in financial, in manufacturing, in healthcare, many other sectors. It is a huge demand, and there has been a lot of great adoption in this, especially in this type of dark web recon technologies.
Great, sir. Thank you. Snigdha, do we have any other questions?
No, I think those are the questions that were here. So guys, if there are any more questions, quickly, if you can just post in, or else we'll go ahead. Okay, we'll just wait a few seconds.
How can you summarize the process that you spoke about? The process is simple, guys. So the this is a question that I've received in my WhatsApp, so it's okay. So the question is simple. Like I've said, you go with your extensive asset discovery. Now that is the most critical process of it. go all wide and do this. And our automated AI-powered engines will do that for you once we have the organization identified. Now, having identified, now cover them with all potential risk coverage factors across all possible domains. In ThreatMeter case, we have more than 100 plus test cases. Now, then associate critical priority to them. Now, after assigning the critical priority to each of the asset, then run the entire tool, crawl through the dark and deep web, look for cloned domains, look for phishing domain attack, look for brand and reputation monitoring, do all of those. And after doing all of those, immediately with the actionable insight that is provided, remediate them. Now, remediation should be based on the priority that you have identified, either through the criticality of the like crown gels that we have spoke about, or based on what it takes, lower cost and lower effort to get it fixed first. Now, having fixed all of them, then continuously monitor them. The key is having continuously monitoring them, taking action, covering all vulnerabilities, associating priorities and remediating them, and again monitoring them continuously in discussion with all business holders so that no stones are unturned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chida. And I see that we would go ahead. We don't see any questions here. So first of all, I would just like to thank everybody for being a part of this. I hope we've known how important, and it has been an eye-opener on how important external surface monitoring is for our current organizations to be ahead of the attackers. So if you see on the screen, this is a free scan of Sumeru Threat Meter. So I would just request you all to just go there and fill in your details. We would be doing a quick POC for the domain of your company, and then we'll be sharing the report through the email. So I would just request all of you all to just click on that and just put in your details so that you can know the current posture of your company at a high level and see how we can, how many loopholes are there that we can fix it. And yeah, the link also would be posted in the chat. So all of you all can just go ahead and click on that, and you can get a free scan by Sumeru. So yes, so that's it. I would just like to thank all of you all, and do not please forget to follow us on LinkedIn for any updates. And also we'll have the webinar and other videos with regards to information security posted on our YouTube channel as well. And I would like to thank especially Mr. Manikant, Mr. Chida, and Mr. Shiva, especially Mr. Manikant, for taking his time out and then helping all of us understand the challenges that are faced in the current industry with regards to it. So I would just like to thank all of you all once again for being a part of this. So until next time, we'll be coming out with a different webinar of a different topic. So until then, thank you so much, all of you all. Have a really wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful talking to all of you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Manikant, sir.
Thanks everyone for joining.